Hello, everyone, and welcome to 100% You, a podcast which is all about discovering who you're truly meant to be and becoming the best version of yourself. I'm your host, Bari, and I've been on the self development journey for the past 15 years and spiritual journey for the past 13 years. Today's episode is actually the first time that I'm recording after I finished my degree, and that's also was the reason why I didn't post for about 2 weeks or even a little bit more because I had the finals, I had everything that I need to finish with my commitment to university. And to be honest, I just knew that I need to finish with that period in order to move to the next period of my life. So there's been a few things since the last time I spoke here. First of all, I had my birthday. I turned 27, which is very exciting, and it was honestly one of the best birthdays I ever had. And today's episode, we're actually going to talk about reflection, and this is something that I'm doing every single year. I do it 2 times a year. I do it usually before my birthday or like a bit after. This year it turned out to be a lot after my birthday because I had exams and everything. I had actually exam a day after my birthday, but we did well. And another time I do it usually before the New Year's Eve. So I have 2 times. Usually it's around December and around July, which is, the midpoint of the year. I have also a bunch of lessons from this year, but this will be the next episode. But today I want to talk to you regarding why reflection is such a necessary tool to use in your life, why you should not avoid it. Because to be honest, this year I really wanted just to avoid doing the reflection because the past year that I had honestly was one of the most challenging years that I had. It was wonderful year. I had so many great opportunities, so many doors opening for me, but at the same time it was really challenging year. And because everything was so new and just happened, I didn't really want to open that door and start processing everything that I've been through. So it was really hard for me to do this. But once I decided to do this, first of all, I was relieved. The second thing is that it actually showed me how much I went through, gave me much more motivation. This is like the key thing. Every time I'm doing reflections, I feel like so much motivation in my life and capability of like I can do anything that I want. This is like the main thing. And I feel like especially when you go through challenging times or things that you really didn't want to go through, but you did it anyway, sometimes because it was so hard, you just want to escape and like, forget about this happening. But I found that doing the opposite, to go through it, to go back, to see, to understand, and to learn from what you just went through, it will give you insights that will be harder to get otherwise. Now, if we'll try to put it in a framework, so the way I view reflection is having those points in your life where you just decide to look and view the time that you spent for the past a year, 6 months, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. When you're doing a reflection and basically put the time that you spend during the period that you reflect on into a box and give meaning to the time you just spent, because eventually our time first of all, time does not really exist, but as we're living in the 3D in this world, we'll always have time. So the way to work with the time and work smart is to have the stop station sometimes and just look at what you went through, look and plan for what's going to come next. Everyone will feel at some point in their life that time flies. I don't think there's one person that don't feel it, that time flies. And sometimes we're going through things. The easiest way to think about this is when you went to school or if you did university. So when you did university or anything in your life that was meaningful and had time period, many times, especially when it was really meaningful, you will notice at some point the time just passed and you went to a new adventure, you went to a new opportunity, moved away, you did something, and now your life looks completely different, which is great. And I also think it's amazing, and I highly encourage you to always be in the present moment. But at the same time, I do believe that once we have this framework of understanding what we had in the past and where we want to go, sometimes it made everything so much easier. Otherwise, you're just going through time, you spend your time of this entire lifetime without even sitting down sometimes and think or look from the top on your life. And I believe also that many times to do a zoom out on your life and see things from a different perspective will get your head so much faster because you stop, you do zoom out, and you understand what worked, what didn't work, and how to move forward. Now, I can tell you about myself that, again, since I knew that I had a challenging year, it was really important for me to do the reflection and go deep down and like go through the feelings and everything again to overcome this and understand that I'm past this and I actually, did a huge progress. The reason it was important for me because, many times when you go through something challenging, your mind actually want to delete what you just went through. And in a few years from now, you will not remember what you went through. And when you don't remember what you went through and what you felt, some feelings and some traumas or some events or something that you may not want to carry with yourself to the future will be stored in your cells, in your subconsciousness. And this was a point that really stood out for me because I talked about this in the past, in the previous episodes. But if you're new here, first of all, hello, nice to meet you. But I talked about this in, I think, in the first episode, second episode, that my parents got divorced when I was 12 and this 12, 11. And this entire year, I'm telling you, I barely remember anything. Like it's a black dot in my head. In the past years, I did try to remember and recall situations and events in order to process it and, eventually to release it from my subconsciousness. But that event, that entire year, caused for me many things that carry with me into my adulthood and things that I carry in my subconsciousness, things that only now in the last years I released. And for me, it is really important to make sure that even if I have challenging things, I want to go through it when I do the reflection in order to understand if there is anything that I need to release. And also, it changes the story that I have in my head about this period of time. Because let's say now, before I did the reflection for this birthday, the way I remember the year that I had, it was challenging, it was this, it was really hard, it was blah, blah, blah. But when I started doing the reflection, I realized that the story is completely different because now I looked at things from a higher perspective. I did zoom out and I saw everything from a completely different lens. I suddenly understood that the story that I had in my brain of how this year went was completely wrong. And the thing that I actually went through was completely different. And I know it sounds weird, like how can you go through something and then remember a completely different story? But eventually, what you remember is the feelings. You remember the feelings. So if I carried a feeling of anxiousness, of depression, of, I don't know, negative things. So this is what I'll remember as the story of this period of time. But once I actually went through deep and started to reflect on this period of time, I realized completely different feelings of strength, of wisdom, of resilience, of confidence, of things that I didn't remember, but those were the things that helped me to move through this dark time and go to the new period of my life. And once I reflect on this period of time, it made me understand that, hey, this period of time actually was when I was the most confident, when I had the most opportunities, when I was the had the most strength I had in my entire life. It made me view and remember different feeling on this period of time. And I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm pretty sure that instead of forgetting about this period of time and kind of do delete in my head, now I will remember this. And every time when I think about this, I will recall it as something good, something motivational, something that actually makes me stronger. So this is something very important for me that I'm doing. So as I said, I usually do reflection at the beginning of the year and during my birthday. I usually like to do it a week before my birthday or 2 weeks before my birthday. But this year, my birthday is on July 6th. So this year I couldn't do it before my birthday because I literally was all over the place with exams and finals and everything. It was like the entire June and July, like the entire second semester. Guys, the previous episodes, I pre-recorded 5 episodes because I knew I will not have the time to record during the semester, which honestly I'm really proud of myself that I did this. But my fault that I didn't record another like 3 episodes for the semester break because I had the exams and I didn't know how crazy it's gonna be. But I'm past this. So I started actually doing the reflection only like a day after my birthday. I'm still doing it actually because I really want to go deep and also do reflection for the past 3 years that I had with university. Because again, it's a new period of time that I have now, and I want to reflect of everything I became, everything I went through. So how do I actually do it? This time I actually just did with Claude some kind of workbook that will help me to do it because I really want to be specific with the question that I'm asking and the things that I'm writing myself. And when you go to doing reflection, it can take a lot of time. Like it can take weeks. So I really want everything to be written for me. So I'll go through like instructions, like this types of question. But in general, what I do is start from going through all of my notebooks. I constantly write. And if you don't do daily journaling, I highly encourage you to start doing this because honestly, it changed my life. I'm doing this since I'm like, I don't even remember. But since a really young age, I always had my notebooks. And I started doing this consistently when no, actually, I always did it consistently, but I had periods of time that I had breaks. And during when my parents divorced when I was 12, it really helped me to go through everything. And since then, it became kind of my best practice to process life, to write my thoughts, to be creative. Like everything is in my notebooks. I have a bunch of them. So I start reading all of my notebooks. And while I read my notebooks, so this is like my current notebook. So once I read my notebook, I wrote in other notebook that I had just points that I want to remember, things I accomplished, things I did. I also wrote things I'm proud of and just kind of to remember like things I went through that I didn't necessarily remember, processes and goals that I achieved or things that I didn't achieve. So I go through every notebook that I have. Now, if you don't have notebooks, let's say you're not there yet, I would highly recommend like going back to anything that you can check. Like maybe you don't have anything, but if you have something, that will be like a great. First of all, you can just, by your memory, try to think about everything you had. I also like to do it through my photos gallery. I always do it like once I finish to read my notebooks, I go to my photos gallery or I do it at the same time and kind of compare the months. So I go month by month. And the same you can do if you don't have anything, any photos, any journaling, you can just take your calendar and try to like think about what you did each month and just write even in dots like this is what I had, this is what I did, this is what I'm proud of, this is person I met, this is experience I had, adventure, and start writing things in bullet points. Another thing that you can do, and we're in the social media era, so it's also something that can help you looking at your archives and looking at the stories you uploaded or like posts you uploaded. And if you have any other social platform, you can look at the posts you had or anything just to remind yourself what you've been through this year. The same thing, you can go through your calendar, look at the meetings you had, things you scheduled. This is also can help you, or any type of form that will help you to recall things that you went through this year. And as I said, usually I do it month by month. Depends, like if I'm doing reading the journaling, so it's just like going through the journals. If I'm looking through my photos gallery, so I'll just go through month by month, which is really helpful to remember everything. So in general, I don't like to just sit and write and about the entire year. Sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. Really depends on my mood because the reflection, as I said, takes a long time. So usually I just write in bullet points. Another thing is that I love to do is to write myself a letter, thank you letter for the year that I had, and kind of be grateful for everything you accomplished, everything you came through, and also state what you want to become or like be this year. This is also really helpful and I love to do this. I started doing this in the past 2 years, I think, and I love reading this again. Like, I loved reading now the letter that I wrote myself last year. It was really emotional actually to read this because I realized that everything that I wrote, I became that version of myself, and everything that I released and I wrote in the letter, this is what I want to release. I released everything. Like, I didn't even remember that I had it in my life. So that was cool. So, reflection. We went through the practical stuff on how to do this. I also talked a little bit about why it is important to do reflection. Now, regarding what to actually look for in the year that you had in order to understand to have how to set and enter to the next year, or it doesn't matter if it's a specific year or a period of time that you're entering. Maybe you finish university, maybe you finish some kind of job you had and you want to reflect about what you learned in this role. Also, moving apartments, everything that is really important for you to just reflect and do that closure. I really believe in closures. I really believe that. Also, if we look energetically, I feel like if you don't do this closure of reflection, whatever, you will feel right for you. But this kind of closures usually give you like it close the box with the energy. Otherwise, the energy can just flow and not necessarily in the direction that you want it to go. So the reflection is kind of a symbolic thing to close that box, close that period of time, and move your energy to a new direction. It's You're really saying to the universe, okay, I'm done with this period of my life and I want to move to the next one. And this is the direction that I'm taking all of the energy that I put there, that I'm moving it there. And it can be, the slightest change of, maybe you had the most amazing period of your life, right? But every time, if you want to become better and have, I don't know, more things, we always have desires. So move your energy towards a different direction. Now, there is two types of desires that I realize that when I do reflection that I come across, and it's either that I achieve them or not. And something that this year I really put a lot of focus on is goals that for years I tried to achieve and I didn't achieve till now. So the way I see it is that there's two type of desires, okay? There can be more, but this is like the way I saw it this year. So there's the desires that is really easy to manifest in your life, and there's the desires that is harder. And for some reason, no matter how much you try, how much you want them, how much you desire this, it's just not coming. Now, maybe it's not. Also, now I think about this, maybe it's not necessarily meant for you, but many times, if it's something that you truly know is meant for you, and still you cannot manifest it in your life and have it, there's maybe something karmic there and something that you need to close and release before actually receiving what you want. So I saw it in my own life that there were things that it was really easy for me to achieve this year that I put my attention on. Things like I got accepted to Base 44 Accelerator. I got accepted to be Base 44 Ambassador. This is something I imagine in my mind, that I want to be Base 44 ambassador before they even had the program of ambassadors. Like, I was thinking about this and I was like, I wish they had something like this. And 2 months later, they launched this and I got accepted. So this was something that for me was really easy to draw into my life because I had no obstacle, nothing that stopped me from actually getting this. But in different areas of my life, like entering a relationship or opening a business, I realized that I had blocks. And this is something that specifically in the first half of the year, like last year in the summer, I really worked hard to release the blocks that I had. And throughout the entire year, I try to, look at if there's any more energy that I need to release in order to get what I want. So I saw that for years I put a goal and I didn't. And this is again from reflections that I did because I realized there's patterns. And we talked about this a lot in the previous episodes. I realized there's a pattern. There's something that no matter how much I try, I cannot achieve what I want. I get maybe I attract the right people, maybe I attract the right opportunities. Like with business, I attract the right opportunities, the right partners, the right, people want to invest in me, like whatever, but I cannot produce the results that I want, or I attract the relationship, the people that I want, but I cannot enter to relationships. So once I realize I have a pattern, I start doing the work in order to release this. If something cannot manifest really quickly in your life, and we are all manifestors, everything you put your intention and focus to, this is something you can easily attract in your life. And again, if there is something blocking you from getting this, you will see the blockage in your life and you cannot attract this. So when you do the reflection, and also this is something that I'm trying to do now, is going through like the energetic field and understand if there's anything that is blocking me from receiving what I want. Another thing that I'm looking in reflection is the people I surround myself with. The way I view the world is like more an energetic way, I would say. So I look at things, whether those kind of relationships, these people are actually elevating me and getting me to where I want. Is this things that I have in my life actually align with my energy? And I really try to look at my life in very detail, but from the top, something that I will not and I cannot do on a daily basis when I live my life. So the reflection is just to step back. And I actually said it to a friend a few days ago, and I think it's a huge one. To do reflection is actually a privilege, because doing your reflection is understand that you put your life, or you put a few hours of your time, maybe of your work, maybe a time you could make money, just put on hold and like stop for a second. And the more deep the reflection, the more privilege you have. Because if you take like, let's say 1 month to do reflection for a huge period of time you had, it's a privilege, because you are deciding not to, I would say, depends, what you're doing in your life. If you have passive income, so okay, it's a different situations, but still, it's invest your entire energy on doing this reflection, to do the zoom out and understand that in the short term, you will not see the outcome of what you're doing. It will impact you in the long term, but in the short term of like today, tomorrow, you will not necessarily see the efforts of what you did. And doing reflection takes a lot of effort. So when I worked in 9 to 5, I really like to actually take a few days off of my work to just take the reflection, take the time, or I actually put it in my calendar of like, I know that this entire week I'm going to do this in the evenings, in the mornings, whatever. So you will need to set the time, because otherwise it will be really hard to do this. Because as I said, it's a privilege to do this. It's something that you are doing on your free time, or instead of something important. Maybe you have commitments that you need to do, maybe your work, maybe your school, maybe you have kids, maybe, I don't know, anything else in your life. You need to put the time to just say, I'm stopping for a second and I'm doing something for myself. When you do the reflection, you are zooming out in order to, it's literally building a strategy. The same thing as I always like to refer to a business, because the same way as a good business should work is look back every quarter, every year, and understand what good things you did and what bad things you did, and actually look at the stats and like understand whether that get me the KPIs that I want, to get me the money that I want, to get me the customers, to get the goals that I achieved. So the same thing to do in your own life. If you don't stop for a second and do this kind of reflection, you will put the energy in the wrong place. And regarding like a few general questions that I love to ask myself is what I learned this year, what version of myself I was this year, and what do I want to release, and what version of myself I want to become, and like also really write very in detail what kind of version, and all the goals and whatever. I also like to reflect and go through each milestone, because there's small milestones that you don't necessarily remember. And when you have many milestones like this, at some points you will see that it's like a snowball effect, and it helps you to look at things from a different perspective. So let's say I had a difficult conversation with a friend this year, and tell I don't know, I said something that usually I don't say. And so that was like a milestone for me. And then I had another milestone of another conversation with a friend of like this and this, then another conversation. And then at the end, I realized that from those small milestones, I became like a completely different person. So this is also something I like to do. And as I said, I think this is like the most important one, to be really honest with yourself with the things that you wanted and you didn't achieve, and look at patterns in your life. I think this is like the fastest way to grow and to become the highest and best version of yourself is to constantly look at the patterns you have in your life, to constantly look at things that you did not achieve, at fears you had, and go straight to it and really identify what blocks you there. So that I think is like the most important one for me at least. So that's it for today. It was a short episode. I will be honest, it was really hard to put myself back and record an episode after I didn't record for like 2 months. I did had an episode, but again, it was pre-recorded. So I'm really happy to come back, and there's so many things coming in the future, but something that I learned this year to keep things close to myself until it happens. So when the time will come, I'll tell you everything that is going to be here. And just in short, this period of my life is going to be very special. First of all, it's the first time I think this year really taught me not to look, we'll talk about this next episode, but in general, this year really taught me not to look at labels. And for years it was really important for me to make sure that I have the right maybe label, to feel that I'm really successful, and to feel that, I don't know, many things that people want to feel sometimes. And it was really challenging for me during the past years, I feel like, to really put everything that I have in order to actually go and pursue my dreams. Because always I looked at other things and maybe how to make money first and then go and pursue my dreams, maybe do this and then this. And this year really taught me that nothing really matters. Times go by, and I really prefer to invest my time, even if I see no results for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, but doing something that I love. And this is going to be a very exciting time. I'm really happy and proud that I have this podcast, and I can't wait to bring you this new energy that will be here. Right now I'm really tired, but and again, I'm really proud of myself that I actually opened the camera, because I really it was really hard for me to do this. I postponed it for like a few days, because every time I tried to do this I was like, no, let's do this first, let's do this. And right now I was like, no, stop. I need to record this. So thank you for watching. If you haven't followed my podcast yet, so go ahead and do this now. I'll be very happy to see you here, and I'll see you next week. Bye.